Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe so that you can be notified whenever I post a new video. And if inspired by this video, make sure that you hit the like button. We're looking at problem solving skills. Problem solving skills. And I'm your presenter, Ndume MS. Okay, so on this slide we've got these two guys. Of course, they're trying to think about something. So these two guys, they're reflecting, thinking. They're trying to think about something. This brings us to a question. What is thinking? What is thinking? Okay, so thinking can be has been defined differently, and it can be defined as a type of behavior that uses inner representations of objects and events. So thinking, it is a type of behavior that uses inner representations of objects and events. In other words, it can be defined as the symbolic reference that deals with remembered, absent, or imagined things. So it can be defined as a symbolic reference that deals with a remembered, absent, imagined things. And this includes events, okay? Events including those, and elaborates on what is present in perception and movement. Having defined what thinking is, we can move on to look at the categories of thinking. And the following are the categories of thinking. Thinking can be directed. Thinking can be, we have critical thinking, and then we have creative thinking. So there are three categories of thinking. We've got directed thinking, critical thinking, and creative thinking. So I want us to look at the three categories of thinking in details. Let us start with critical thinking. What is critical thinking? A question can be asked. What is critical thinking? So the term critical thinking is the use of those cognitive skills or strategies that increases the probability of a desirable outcome. The term critical thinking is the use of those cognitive skills or strategies that increases the probability of a desirable outcome. In addition to that, it is purposive, reasoned, and goal-oriented. So critical thinking is purposive, reasoned, and goal-oriented. We can also say that it is the kind of thinking involved in solving problems, formulating inferences, calculating likelihood, and making decisions. So having defined what critical thinking is, let us look at directed thinking. What is directed thinking? Directed thinking can be described as, or can be defined as, controlled purposive thinking. This is controlled purposive thinking that is focused on a specific goal, such as a solution to a problem, and guided by the requirements of that goal. So it is defined as controlled purposive thinking that is focused on a specific goal, such as a solution to a problem, and guided by requirements of that goal. Let us look at critical thinking. Creative thinking. What is creative thinking? Answering the question, what is creative thinking? Creative thinking is the ability to consider something in a new way. The ability to consider something in a new way, and it might be a new approach to a problem. Okay. Then, in addition to that, creative thinking, it means thinking outside the box. There's a way in which society has has accepted thinking to be. So when you decide to think outside the box, it means you're applying creative thinking. So creative thinking can also be defined as it might mean devising new ways to carry out a task. You can formulate new ways to come out with to carry out a task. And then apart from that, it can be devising a new way to solve a problem, and also devising new ways to meet challenges. So creative thinking might mean devising new ways to carry out a task, solve problems, and meet new challenges. Okay. Having looked at the categories of thinking, let us move on to look at the building blocks of thinking or thoughts. The building blocks of thinking or thoughts. So there's the way the mind organizes information is different from the way it's done physically. When you go to a library, you discover that books are arranged in shelves according to the subjects. So even the mind has organized information in a certain way so that our thinking can be helped. So that there are basically we have two types of building blocks. Okay, there are two types of building blocks of thinking. The first one is what is called mental images, and then the second one it is called concepts. Okay, so mental images and concepts, these are the two building blocks of thinking. Let us look at the mental images. A mental image can be defined as a mental representation of a sensory experience. Okay, when I happen to see something, there's a way in which the mind has to form an image of the thing that I've seen, and there's a way in which that information has to be stored. So the mind should form a mental image of what I've seen. For instance, if I happen to see a dog, the mind has to form a mental image of a dog. If I happen to see a car, the mind has to form a mental image of a car so that that mental image can be stored. Okay, so a mental image, it is a mental representation of a sensory experience. Okay, in addition to that, or in other words, you can say it a mental image can be used to think about things, places, and events. If I've been to the University of Zambia, of course I have to form a mental image of the University of Zambia, such that when someone if I happen to go if someone happens to take me to a certain place, okay, a different place from the University of Zambia, maybe in a tinted car, when I come out and I happen to see that environment, I'll know that no, this is not the University of Zambia, because already I have a mental image of the University of Zambia in my head. Okay, so if I've seen a dog before, I formed a mental image about a dog. So if someone takes me to the jungle and they show me a lion and they told me to say this is a dog, I'll know that that's not a dog. That's not a dog, because I already have a mental image of a dog in my head. Okay, so a mental image, it is used to think about things, places, and events. Okay, so having looked at what the mental image is, let us move on to look at concepts. A concept is a representation of a category. It is a representation of a category. In other words, we can say that it refers to a class of objects, ideas, and events that share common properties. Okay? So for the mental image, we're looking at the images, okay? Like if I happen to see the words, I happen to see the word maybe there, I should form a mental image of that word. I have to know that there's T, there's H, and there's E. Okay, but there are times when we're dealing with information, like written information. Okay, concepts. So I have to form a mental representation of that category. Okay. So it refers to a class of objects, ideas, or events that share common properties. Since we now understand the building blocks of knowledge, that is mental images and concepts, there's a question that I want us to answer. Why do we need to form concepts? Why do we need to form concepts? Okay, so it is important that we form concepts because concepts, they help us in organizing our knowledge, so that whenever we need to access our knowledge, we can do it with less time and effort. Just like the mental images, we need mental images, we need concepts, because these will help us in organizing our knowledge, so that whenever we need to access that knowledge, we can do it with less time and effort. If you go to the library, you will discover that books are arranged in a certain way, in an orderly manner. You find that there's a section for mathematics, there's a section for science, social studies, there's a section for psychology, there's a section for engineering, there's a section for each topic, there's a section. The reason being is to avoid confusion. You have to know if someone is looking for a book in psychology, they should go to the section where there are those books. If someone is looking for a book in medicine, they should go to that section in order for them to easily locate that information. So now coming to our question, why do we need to form concepts and images? This will help us to organize our knowledge, as well as to retrieve that information. When we need to access that information, it will help us to do it with less time and effort. So thank you very much for listening. Make sure that you take good care of yourself in this period of COVID-19, and please stay safe. Thank you.